Hi, I'm Hazel. It is almost Saturday today, which makes it time to sit down and catch up with a new vlog. This week, actually this morning, Blizzard released the final Warbringer cinematic at Gamescom, so Warbringer Azshara is out. It's on YouTube. I will link it in the description if you haven't seen it yet. I don't plan on doing a reaction video to this one. I already watched it this morning, and to sum up my thoughts, first of all, it's awesome. That's kind of a given. I don't know if they've really done a bad one of these. Obviously, the Sylvanas one gave a lot of people a lot of feelings, but I don't know that anybody actually thought that the video was bad. I don't know. Azshara was awesome, and I must say that Old God Fish is my aesthetic. I was confused at first. In the beginning part with the fish, I was struck by a strong desire to make a really dumb edit where she's struggling with the desire to just have a lot of fish, because I relate to that lately. But anyways, Azshara was cool. I will link it in the description if you haven't seen it yet, and I am excited to see where they go with that storyline in BFA. Yesterday there was a dev Q&A on Twitch. They sat down and talked about a lot of the current issues of BFA. Not a whole list of them, but the ones that I found particularly relevant were the issues talking about mob scaling while leveling and at max level, talking about the auction house lag situation, and then also talking about their intentional crippling of auto-accept and the group finder add-on situation. So starting with mob scaling while leveling, in the Q&A they basically just recapped how we got to this point, which is more or less it's a side effect of having a scaling world and a couple of other things. But they talked about how it happened and then went, well, we know it's not good and we're gonna try and do something better next time. And I'm just really curious to see what the solution ends up being, because I totally agree that it feels so weird to be running around at level 117, struggling with a mob or two, and a level 111 just comes through and smashes everything. Or even at like 120, in not great gear, but like normal heroic dungeon level gear, you can be struggling with something, and then some 111 paladin comes along with his Ashbringer and just Ashbringer stuff up. It's bizarre. I'm not overly upset. I don't feel like it ruined my leveling experience, and overall I do think this is a short-term problem for BFA because it's mostly going to affect people while they're leveling, and then in this period right now where you've just finished leveling but you don't really have Mythic Plus or Raid gear yet, and you haven't really had time to get really great stuff from World Quests, I think that once everybody's item levels start getting closer to 340 and above, which will be possible with just World Quests eventually, hopefully at that point you start to feel decently effective and then it's solved for the rest of BFA, and then the big question is what do they do next time to prevent this problem from happening while still giving us access to this flexible zone order? Or is it worth sacrificing the flexible zone order and actually locking zones to specific levels and then making them scale at max level? Like, there's solutions they can play with, but I'm just interested to see what happens. As far as the auction house thing, not a whole lot to say there, except I hope that they sort out the lag soon. I kind of personally hope, and I think this might be kind of a long shot because of what an overwhelming undertaking it is, but I kind of hope that they fix that problem in conjunction with a wider auction house revamp, because it just so desperately needs one. They know that. That's not news to anybody that the auction house needs help. I'm hoping that in addition to fixing some of the back-end issues and some of the lag that we've been experiencing, that they make some wider changes to help bring the auction house up to a better standard of usability without having to use add-ons. In my personal life, earlier this week, one of my family members back home died very suddenly and unexpectedly. He was very, very loved and very much too young to die. I don't think anybody can really be ready for anything like that. Everyone that knew him has been having a tough couple of days, and in times like this, it's really hard to be away from my family. For anybody new to my channel, I live in America. I live in Oregon with my husband, but I am from West Coast Canada, and I don't get to go back up home very often. Something that's always been important to me, but I'm now realizing just how important to me is that I really want to work on and improve myself and my channel and my content and my work so that I can both do the best at that in the time that I have, but also get myself hopefully to a financial position where I can either move closer to home and my family or go visit them more often. I haven't really done much video stuff this week, and that's why there haven't been any new dungeon guides after the Underrot. At this point, I'm not planning on finishing the dungeon guides. I'm going to move right into raid guides, and then and I think that by the time I've caught up with that and like the TSM and pet stuff, the dungeon boat's kind of sailed, so I'm probably just going to let the rest of them go. I want to thank you guys for all of your support and kind messages on Twitter. I do plan on streaming this afternoon, and I would really like to not talk any further about it, so I won't be answering any related questions. I'd really like to have more of a normal Friday stream. I'm planning on doing some dungeons or island expeditions or both with viewers, so that'll be at the normal time. And on a lighter note in my life this week, well, it was almost a dark note too, but it ended up, the story had a happy ending. My snails, I have a couple of snails. I got narrate snails in both my aquariums, and then I have a mystery snail named Guido that lives in my 20-gallon lawn. And last week, I noticed that I hadn't really seen Guido around for a few days, and we looked for him, and he's a big snail. The narrates are little. They can go missing for ages and just pop up, but he's like a golf ball-sized bright yellow snail. He's hard to miss, and my husband found him outside of the tank on the carpet, and that was a little heartbreaking because we've had that snail for a little bit, but we rinsed him off and let him have some water, and turns out he's fine. He was just, they can close themselves up and stay moist for a while inside, so you just rinse him off, put him back in, and he might be okay. He was okay. And then yesterday, Turd Snail, who I promise I didn't name, it was the sales associate tried to, anyway, long story. Turd Snail back there had also left the tank, and I couldn't find it anywhere, and then I found it on the floor, on the carpet, under the tank stand. Like, oh no. And then I rinsed it off and I put him back in after I'd finished cleaning the tank, and turns out Turd Snail is fine too. So snails be leaving. I lowered the water level in the 20-gallon aquarium because with the mystery snail, the prevailing theory is that it's actually a female and she's trying to lay eggs, and that's why she was leaving the tank. And then with narrates, they're just escape artists. There is a lid on that tank. I don't know how he got out. But as long as I check every day and put him back in if it's out, I guess it's okay. Oh, and then in Nobody Cares news, if anybody remembers a couple of vlogs ago, we were talking about growing tomatoes and watering them with water from the aquariums. I grew these. I have some tomatoes. This is a regular cherry one. These are yellow pear tomatoes. There's also black cherry tomatoes out there that are pretty good. And I washed them really well, and I can confirm that I don't taste like fish. Are really good. Actually, that one's kind of sour. I brushed my teeth before I did this, and I think that the toothpaste taste is kind of mixing with tomato taste. I'm gonna leave this one for later. Questions from this week. Jeffrey asks, how much of an RPer are you? Do you have a personal story or lore behind your characters? For instance, my Blood Elf Rogue is a Far Strider who has proven his worth to the Horde. So I've gone through different phases of this. Back in kind of the Kata Mop era, I used to have backstories for every single one of my alts with varying levels of detail. And I was a huge altaholic back then. I would switch characters every 2 months or so, and I would spend time, like, charting out their details and their families and their motivations and whatnot. These days, in the past couple of expansions, kind of like end of Mop until now, incidentally the same time frame in which I started raiding, I've kind of toned back the stories because, honestly, I never really remembered them anyways. They were more fun to write than they were to live. I kind of have, like, less of a backstory, but more of an aesthetic for each character, which I kind of express. It sort of starts with their class and their race, but then you kind of express it further with your choice of title and transmog and hairstyle and battle pet that they have out. So each of my different characters has a slightly different aesthetic. Most of them will have a couple of battle pets on their quick bar on the right hand side that are kind of themed to my feeling for that character, so that's kind of what I do instead. Bosco and Friends asks, what mount or item do you have to allow you to pick herbs and not be dismounted? So there are two at this time that will let you do that, and the first one, as somebody replied to you, is the Sky Golem mount. That is a crafted engineer mount, but it is BOE. You can buy them on the auction house. They're expensive, especially right now, because lots of people are buying them to go pick a bunch of BFA herbs. And then the other one, which is actually what I use, is the something lumber extractor. Mechanized lumber extractor, and that one looks just like the Sky Golem, but it's a little bit greener, and I like it because it's slightly different. You don't see as many people around in them, and that one is a reward from the toy collecting meta achievement for getting 300 toys. So if you have a decent amount of toys and you're close to the 300 mark, that will probably be easier and faster for you to do than getting the gold for a Sky Golem, but either one of them will allow you to pick herbs without getting dismounted, and they are flying mounts as well, so you can do that in flying as well as ground mount zones. Just fly around and grab herbs like a druid. Unfortunately, it's like a big, clunky, unwieldy thing. It makes noises that really bother me if I'm playing with sound on. And then when you're flying, it's one of those ones, it's kind of like a weavy flyer, which is annoying, but we can't all be slim little druid birds. Fallen Sammy asks, I had a question regarding streaming and vlogging. I am having trouble getting past the what if they don't like me phase. Usually people can judge streamers on face value. How did you get over your fear of this, or do you still face them now? So I think as part of being a human that is alive, people won't like you. And then when you go and put yourself on the internet, where people can express that anonymously through text with like no repercussions at all, people will tell you that they don't like you. And that goes no matter how well you're doing, how poor you're doing. A lot of people, like streamers and YouTubers, will say that you can't let it get to you, that this is part of the job, you're expected to just kind of brush all that off. And that's kind of true, but I think it's unrealistic to expect that it'll never get to you. And I think it's more important to have a couple of strategies that work for you to help you manage that, just so that you don't develop unhealthy habits. So one thing that I do is I try to think of content creators, streamers, or YouTubers that I 1000% respect and admire, and I'm just in awe of their work, and I get so excited every time they upload, and I'm just really happy that they have chosen to make content. People that I'm just super fans of. And I go into their comments and I go into their chats and I will read people giving them the same trash that they give me, that they give everybody. It's a weird way to cope, but I think seeing it like that helps put things in perspective for me and realize that it's not always personal. I think that if the person that is saying something about you doesn't know you in person, then try to not take what they're saying personally. Some days are definitely easier for that than others, but if it's something that you want to do, I think that you should do it. And like a lot of things, the positive aspects of it and the positive aspects of a community definitely way outweigh the negative stuff. It's just there's always going to be negative stuff, but that's true of absolutely anything. Tyler asks, what has been your most effective gold making method so far this expansion? So I've been doing really easy, straightforward stuff so far because I haven't really been taking time to research like the really juicy gold making, and also my TSM's still not functioning quite the way that I want it to. So I have been just selling herbs and fish oil, and I noticed that a lot of fish are priced at like a fair bit less gold than the fish oil. And I found out that the fish oil does sell. People do buy fish oil directly. So I actually made a reasonably significant amount of gold by just buying cheap fish, right-clicking them to turn them into fish oil, and then selling the fish oil. I don't know if the gold income was worth the carpal tunnel, but you can't say that it was difficult. So that has been my week. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have a question that you would like answered in a vlog, please leave it in the comments of the vlog with the word question included somewhere there so I can find it. And I hope that you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day.